All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. But we're going to have a show.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Please remain standing. It is such a pleasure to have everyone in. What a great show we have. We have a special surprise announcement at the end of the show today, so that's kind of an exciting thing. I am looking forward to spending time with Tony, who's just returned from Formula One. What was that like?
It's cool. There's a lot of people there, but I mean, look, I'll show you real fast. If you can see this, this was the view from my room.
Oh, wow.
Here, I'll put it full screen.
What hotel were you staying at, or what
the Alara. So I could see that's like the start paddock, the start finish line, and like the back straight, or the front straight, technically, yeah.
Wow. And was that the best way to see it? Like, is that from your...
I didn't mind. Had it on the TV in there and watching that and eating some food and comfort. And or could sit in the grandstand where it was like 40 degrees outside.
I know, that was the thing. I mean, you pay a lot of money for those grandstand tickets and you're sitting freezing your ass off all night watching Formula One. I don't know.
And it was raining.
Yeah, and you're right.
Not
and it
the
was
race
wet,
day,
although
but
I think
quality
it was dry by race time.
Yeah. But qualifying was in the rain.
Formula One is one of those things, Kim, the cars go really fast. They are super loud. I know you are familiar with NASCAR. Those cars are really loud. The Indy cars are really loud. But the F1 cars are like otherworldly. In fact, there's a kind of sound they make.
Oh, yeah.
That is so piercing.
V6s now, yeah.
Yeah.
They just run such high RPMs.
It's so intense. Anyway,
they had a Ferrari at the Puma store.
Yeah,
Here's why I know a little about Formula One, because my daughter has Formula One posters on her wall.
Wow.
I said, why are you suddenly into racing? And she said, Mom, have you seen those drivers? They're really cute.
They are cute, I think, the new cute drivers.
Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, whatever it takes to get you in, There's Tony with a shot from his room of one of the cars passing.
I think that was the Aston Martin, if I remember right.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. So that was Tony's weekend. Kim, what did you do?
I went to see a karate demonstration, which was, really, really nice.
Wow.
What?
The Sonoma State University Symphony had a show, and my daughter was in that, so that was good.
Oh, that's great. They don't do the karate demonstration and the symphony in the same venue.
We should merge, I think. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Well, I have...
what did you do this weekend, Mark?
I was afraid, even as I asked, that you were going to ask me. And one of the blessings of being... I don't know what I did. I don't think I did anything.
Well, you're still kind of on the cool down from...
Yeah, it's true. I'm having a lot of trouble, honestly, with my neck. I can't sleep at night. It's very horrible. I'm considering surgery and all this stuff. So I'm reading, falling asleep, reading. I worked out a little bit. I don't know. Good. I liked watching football yesterday. Mm-hmm. And this show is born of a radio show from the San Francisco Bay Area. So there are many Niners fans on this show, but this show also has many Los Angelinos, and the Rams are unbeatable from the looks of it. They were so impressive, and of course, they're in the same division. Of course, Rams are the enemies of the Niners. You've got this kind of built-in conflict with some of our viewers and listeners, and many New Yorkers are part of our audience, and And the Giants just are one of those bizarre teams where they're ahead for much of the game, and then they just seem to grab the loss from the jaws of victory type thing. Anyway, that was a little bit of football yesterday.
Speaking of football, I read an interesting stat yesterday, and see, you may have seen this. Tell me if I get it wrong. The quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, has beaten 31 out of the 32 NFL teams. And the only team he hasn't beaten is the Chiefs, which is because he's on the Chiefs. That's what I was reading about him.
That's funny. I mean, he's a phenom.
Yeah.
The last 3 years with the Chiefs, pretty amazing. They seem to have little vestiges of that mojo, but they seem also beatable now. And so there's a strange vulnerability, I'll just say, that the Chiefs seem to have that they didn't have in the last few years. So there was always a sense that they could pull a rabbit out of the hat at the end and win. Now they're reaching around in the hat, they can't find the rabbit type thing. It seems at times.
Patrick Mahomes sets NFL record in Chiefs overtime win in Week 12. He enters the NFL's record books during the Chiefs' thrilling overtime win against the Colts. With his 352 yards passing, he passes LA Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford for the fewest games played to accumulate 35,000 passing yards.
That's interesting that they compute the yardage, but they also compute the number of games that you needed to get the yardage. Anyway. Interesting. Well, welcome to Sports Talk, everybody. We'll take a call in a second. So glad to have you here. The Mark Thompson Show. It was a busy Friday after we got off the air. After we got off the air, the Mamdani meeting that Trump had adjourned, and then Mamdani and Trump had some public remarks, and we'll have some of those remarks for you in a moment. In fact, I'll give you a nice chunk, so I'll let it breathe. I think most of the stuff that you've seen is just like one soundbite about the fascism, and he goes, oh, call me what you want, whatever. I'll show you that as well, but I'll give you a little more of that. Gary Dietrich, bottom of the hour. In fact, I might play some of the meeting for Gary. I want to get Gary's feelings about something else that happened after we got off the air, which was the desertion, if you will, of Marjorie Taylor Greene, it would seem, from MAGA Nation. She is sort of the she's the Rose Parade queen of MAGA, and she's saying, I'm getting off the float and I'm going to stop waving. I no longer want to be in Congress. Now, there's several different ways to look at this, and I'll get into some of those as well. As I say, I'll touch on, as we do often, conflicts of interest, massive conflicts of interest in the Trump administration with Saudi Arabia, with a drone company that the Trumps have now started that has just gotten a huge government contract. I mean, it's just, the grift is insane. And then I'll also touch on ICE today, some of the brutality and illegality of what's going on with ICE. Not to mention Sarah Kendzior, who is in hour 2. Yeah, so that's going to be all ahead. I did want to acknowledge the passing of an extraordinary artist, influential reggae artist. Jimmy Cliff has passed away. And Jimmy Cliff, and this is something we talked about, and I'm going to kind of give you fair warning. Oh, this is interesting. There's Jimmy Cliff.
Yeah.
I'll answer this in a moment, Chaplain Fred's. MTG is nothing but another distraction, Mark. I disagree with that, but there might be some truth to it. I'll get to it in a second, Chaplain Fred. Thank you. Jimmy Cliff, Jamaican reggae singer, actor, cultural icon. He passes away at 81. Star of The Harder They Come. He had hits like You Can Get It If You Really Want, and I Can See Clearly Now. I liked Wonderful World, Beautiful People. He is one of just a handful of musicians, apparently, alongside Bob Marley, to be awarded the Jamaican Order of Merit. Jamaican Prime Minister Andrew Holness was among those paying tribute to Cliff, calling him, quote, a true cultural giant whose music carried the heart of our nation to the world. Jimmy Cliff told our story with honesty and soul. His music lifted people through hard times, inspired generations, and helped to shape the global respect that Jamaican culture enjoys today. He was born in Jamaica in 1944. His music career began in the early 60s. He moved to Kingston, Jamaica, began collaborating with producer Leslie Kong. Kong's family owned a record shop called Beverly's. And Cliff wrote a song name-checking it to help persuade Kong, who would go on to become a key producer in reggae, to work with him. He had a number of local hits, selected as a Jamaican representative at the World's Fair Expo in New York in 1964, but his career really took off when he got signed to Island Records. He was initially marketed to a rock crowd, and he says that he moved to London, and he said the city was, quote, a bitch. I experienced racism in a manner I had never experienced it before. But the sparkling ska of 1969's Wonderful World, Beautiful People proved to be his breakthrough UK hit. It got to number 6 in the UK charts. Its message of hope and unity carried with it a rebuke of the current state of the world, they note here. Cheating, backbiting, scandalizing, and hating is a lyric. And that blend of beautiful music and socially conscious lyrics, they go on to say here, became a core part of Cliff's artistry. He was, he did Cat Stevens' Wild World, did a cover of that. And then he did The Harder They Come in 1972 after the film's director just thought that he would be a good actor. There was not a big audition process, apparently. And that soundtrack album, which had a lot of Cliff performances, that just vaulted him to a wider audience. It also vaulted reggae to a wider audience. The film was released in 1973. So I wanted to, isn't that's the most 70s album cover, too. I love, we're showing it on YouTube. That is such
one of my absolute favorites. I love this album.
That is a perfect album cover.
The Slickers on there is so good, too. They did, oh, God, his name's, yeah.
Yeah.
I love this from Rev P. He says, I saw Jimmy Cliff in a San Francisco park where I won a trip to Jamaica through a global exchange raffle. How cool is that?
That is super cool. What a great brag, Rev. That is really a great brag. Good for you. So when Cool Runnings came out, which is the Jamaican bobsled film.
We love that movie at this house.
Yeah, and so did a lot of other people. That was a version of I Can See Clearly Now that was re-released. And that just, again, vaulted him back into the public consciousness in 1994.
Can we play that?
So,
Are we allowed?
So here's what's going to happen.
Okay.
We'll play a little bit of I Can See Clearly, and we'll play a little bit of Wonderful World, Beautiful People. But here's what's going to happen. This show will be demonetized as a result. But what will happen after the fact is that we can remove those songs and I think re-achieve some kind of monetization. Here is, though, I want to tell everybody who's listening or who tunes in after the fact and watches YouTube and likes to follow the live chat afterward. When we remove something from the show, the live chat goes away. So those of you who are in the live chat, good for you. You're watching the show live and you're participating, or you're just reading it. You'll see it. But everybody else, I'm sorry, because we're going to play these songs and then take them out later, the live chat will be something that we also lose. I don't know. We just all agree we really wanted to hear little Jimmy Cliff as he passes away. So here you go. I don't know what you've got up first. Thank you. Jimmy Cliff passes away at 81. And yeah, I mean, of course, that song was, thanks for the music. Beth Farmer, thank you for the money for $19.99 in the super chat. Big shout out to you and thank you. There are times YouTube is just stupid. Thanks for the tunes, Terry. And thank you for the $20, Terry, too.
Big shout out.
I get it. You know, that's on the monetization thing. First of all, I'll finish with Jimmy Cliff, then I'll just speak to the monetization thing. Yeah, the song was covered by Johnny Nash also. Somebody was mentioning it was covered by somebody else, yeah. But the Johnny Nash cover sounds so much like the Jimmy Cliff song. It was like a weird kind of almost karaoke-ish version of it. Great, because, it's a great song, but just one of those things. $5, thanks, Rev P. Worth it. R.I.P. Jimmy, yeah.
Big shout
out. I get it. Artists deserve money for their work, so I understand why we can't run the songs without, the artist demanding money. I mean, sadly, little of the money goes to the artists by now. It's all been corporatized and commoditized. So, but that said, we just wanted to do it. So that was Jimmy Cliff, and you can do your own kind of Jimmy Cliff festival at your place. Because he's got so many, great songs, and that's just a great sound. And yeah, what's that?
Don't forget about his great cover of the Partridge Family song he did in like 2013. Did Come On Get Happy? He did Come On Get Happy.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
I've got to hear that.
Tony was playing that for me before the show. It's great.
Oh, here we go.
It was for a Volkswagen ad.
Hello world, here's a song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what we'll be bringing. We'll make you happy. We had a dream we'd be traveling together. Spread a little
No.
I
think there's a hint of desperation. I really do.
All right, let's stop that.
Tony and I also like the River song. That's a really good one too.
You got the River song?
Wide. Was it Wide River?
I know, Many Rivers Across,
Oh, Many Rivers Across.
That's
good.
That's a song that's also been
I play
covered.
that on my Sunday show all the time.
That's been covered by many as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tony needs to create a hardcore version of a metal cover on the song. Yeah.
Look, I'm a metalhead and everything, but I always listen to old 60s ska. That is my bag, man. So.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of 60s, and this is my Project 1984.5 t-shirt. I love it for the time we're in. You can get it at getmarkmerch.com. The time we're in is one in which they tell you the administration is totally transparent on the Epstein files. They can't wait to release it. And then, of course, they find ways not to release it, even as they're telling you that they're following the law and they are adhering to a policy of total transparency. They tell you they're for peace, and then they open fire on what were clearly, in some instances, fishing boats off the coast of Venezuela. They tell you they're for peace and that this is the peace president deserving of a Nobel Prize, and then he's supportive of the regime associated with Netanyahu and what's going on in Gaza and the clear siding with Russian aggression that has led to the obliteration of so much that is the Ukrainian dream of independence and freedom. And all of that, to me, is Orwellian. You tell me it's one thing, and of course, it's the opposite. So Project 1984.5 is the subtle way of repping that you are living in an Orwellian autocracy, whether you want to believe it or not. That is a fact in my judgment. And Trump, with his smile and charm, the GOP with his billionaire boys club of cabinet members from Besant to Lutnick, tell you about how tariffs are great for the economy, great for the American worker, even as they cripple the American worker and cripple the American economy. That is Orwellian. And so the Project 1984.5 t-shirt, I love. I'm getting the mug also, so I can do both. And I have to buy it just like you do. GetMarkMerch.com. GetMarkMerch.com is where you can find all of our stuff. And you will see stuff that you like. You'll see stuff that you love. You'll see stuff that's a stocking stuffer. You'll see all kinds of things. And Courtney is working to update it too. She's kind of the the design mind behind some of this stuff. So grab what speaks to you, the Peacefully Resist mug, our classic mug, whatever it is. But I love the Project 1984.5 shirt. Make Love, Not Fascism is another good one. And many of you have sent us pictures of you wearing the merch or holding the merch or whatever, and we try to share those whenever we can. So, yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, when I say charm with Donald Trump, I mean that smile and the sort of ingratiating, complimentary way in which he handles things. You know, that's the what we saw from the Mamdani meeting. So I'm going to actually share some of the Mamdani meeting with you, and I am going to get to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I actually want to save it for a few minutes until Gary Dietrich gets here, because I have a take on Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Dietrich, I'm sure, has a take on Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is more than just a distraction. She was a firebrand for MAGA. She was a huge Trump devotee. I mean, she was a huge Trump loyalist. And as a Trump loyalist, she was really unbending in her support of the president. I think her jumping off the Trump train is reflective of a few different things, and I want to talk to Gary about them. But for now, I want to touch on Mamdani, because I thought the Mamdani meeting was interesting. In
the Mark Thompson Show.
It happened after we got off the air on Friday, Mamdani and Trump meeting, and then after the meeting, they talked to the press. I wanted to play you a kind of an extended cut on this, just so you got a sense of it, and then I'll talk about my thoughts and also give you some, I think, pretty smart takes that I've read along the way. This is Mamdani and Trump right from the beginning talking to the press.
Well, thank you very much. We've just had a great meeting, a really good, very productive meeting. We have one thing in common. We want this city of ours that we love to do very well. And I wanted to congratulate the mayor. He really ran an incredible race against, a lot of smart people, starting with the early primaries against some very tough people, very smart people. And he beat them easily. And I congratulated him. And we talked about some things in very strong common, like housing and getting housing built, and food and prices, and the price of oil is coming way down. Anything I do is going to be good for New York. If I can get prices down, it's good for New York. And we've got them down, way down from last year. We have, as you know, I've been saying to a lot of people, Walmart said that Thanksgiving this year is exactly 25% less than last year. So that's good for New York, good for everybody. But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have, hopefully, a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am, I will say. There's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Please.
I appreciated the meeting with the president, and as he said, it was a productive meeting focused on a place of shared admiration and love, which is New York City, and the need to deliver affordability to New Yorkers, the 8.5 million people who call our city their home, who are struggling to afford life in the most expensive city in the United States of America. We spoke about rent, we spoke about groceries, we spoke about utilities, we spoke about the different ways in which people are being pushed out, and I appreciated the time with the president, I appreciated the conversation. I look forward to working together to deliver that affordability for New Yorkers.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Now you get to the Q&A. Here we go.
Stephen Nelson from the New York Post. I've got a question for you, and then also one for the mayor-elect.
Sure.
For you, you referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Can you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question. And on your first part, I mean, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? I mean, we're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot. From when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to be. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually, and some very liberal people. He won't surprise them because they already like him.
And Mr. Mamdani, it sounds like you had a productive discussion, but just days ago you referred to President Trump as a despot who betrayed the country. You said you would be his worst nightmare and accused him of having a fascist agenda. Are you planning to retract any of these remarks in order to improve your relationship?
I think both President Trump and I, we are very clear about our positions and our views, and what I really appreciate about the president is that the meeting that we had focused not on places of disagreement, which there are many, and also focused on the shared purpose that we have in serving New Yorkers. And frankly, that is something that could transform the lives of the 8.5 million people who are currently struggling under a cost of living crisis, with 1 in 4 living in poverty. And the meeting came back again and again to what it could look like to lift those New Yorkers out of struggle and start to deliver them a city that they could do more than just struggle to afford it, but actually start to live in it.
And I've been called much worse than a despot, so it's not that insulting. Maybe I think he'll change his mind after we get to working together. Yes, please.
Okay, that's a piece of what you've seen from the beginning with that Trump Mamdani addressing the press. It's interesting. I thought that this was a reasonably good take. The Mamdani magic, obviously he's a very charismatic guy. He seems unflappable. He also seems authentic. And I say seems authentic. I don't know how authentic anybody can be in politics, but I think that there is a sense that Mamdani is living the life of New Yorkers, in the sense that he's connected to the average New Yorker in a way that, you know, the billionaire class, the wealthy class in New York is not. And Trump obviously represents the latter. But what was so remarkable was the way that Mamdani seemed to tame Trump, right? The ingratiating style that Trump found in dealing with Mamdani was quite extraordinary. And it was suggested as I was reading a breakdown, actually Kim sent me a breakdown that suggested that as Mamdani moves into real issues and real stakes and real governance, Trump disengages, because that's not what he does. Trump is sort of a showman, not sort of, I mean, that's what he is. He's into the theater of being president, announcements, changing things, wrecking things, impulsive decision-making, ego. These are all things that drive Trump. And the Mamdani discussions of what will actually happen in New York and for New Yorkers, in a way they don't interest Trump, because that's not what Trump does. Trump doesn't do civic policy. He doesn't do governance. He does this crap. So when Mamdani is speaking and when Trump is speaking, there is a kind of a disconnect there. But that disconnect favors media, because you just have Trump not able really to assert himself in the ugliness that has typified the name calling. But you find Trump frankly ingratiating himself to this guy, because this guy seems to have his act together from the standpoint of popular support, immense popular support, right? He's a winner. And Trump likes to be close to a winner. And also someone who seems to understand the heavy lift associated with trying to help New Yorkers. And Trump, I think with not an appetite for real governance, still understands that this guy has tapped into something. I think whatever positive disposition Trump has toward Mamdani can change in an hour, just like all of the loyalties that Trump have can change in an hour. But I thought it was interesting that Mamdani, particularly because he seemed to be unflinching in his disposition toward everything he'd said, didn't back down, and yet didn't make these statements in a combative way, just made them in an assertive way, was able to tame Trump. As I say, play the second cut, if you will. This is the one that everybody saw, I think.
I've been focusing. I understand. I think the focus is on the work at hand. I can tell you I am someone who is a democratic socialist. I've been very open about that. And I know there might be differences about ideology, but the place of agreement is the work that needs to be done to make New York City affordable. That's what I look forward to.
And I want to clarify that your answer to Stephen Nelson he asked about your comment calling the president a fascist, and your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
And this is more than I wanted to ask you also.
That's the cut that everybody saw. That's
Ukraine.
good, Tony. Thank you. That's the cut that everybody saw. I just want to make sure you saw it too, where Trump, basically, taps out on that. So it's okay. Yeah, you can call me a fascist. It doesn't bother me. I've been called worse. But I thought the first part was instructive for the way in which Mamdani, as I say, notes some of the real issues that he's concerned with that concern New Yorkers, some of that stuff vaulting him to the mayorship, and how Trump really seeing that Mamdani has the appetite for government and governance that he doesn't have, seems to understand the issues that vaulted him to success, beating out the institutions of politics of New York. This is a key point in my judgment. He sees in Mamdani a guy who is quacking a bit like he quacked when he was going up against the political establishment of the U.S. to become president. This system doesn't work for you. I will be your advocate. I will change things, and now the system will work for you. These guys are all of a system. I'm here to change that system. Mamdani was that kind of guy during the campaign and seems to still be that kind of guy. So he's Trumpian in that sense, from the outside coming in. Anyway, we all know what happened once Trump took power, but I'm just suggesting that there was a lot of that I think speaks to a parallel. What's that?
Is it just me, or was that an awfully hard love tap? Maybe the mics just picked that up, but it sounds like when he smacked him on the shoulder, like, okay, say I'm a fascist. It was kind of a hard little.
That's funny. That's funny. I didn't notice that.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Mondays, bring this guy into our mix. I will get his impressions of the Mamdani meeting. And I think that the Mamdani, I also want to get an impression on this. I think that, it changes the script potentially, because Mamdani was one of those guys who was really viewed as the problem with the Democratic Party is guys like this. And they were pointing, and all of a sudden Trump seems to be best friends with this guy like this, and that might change the arithmetic. But the brilliant political analyst for iHeartMedia and also for the CBS television stations, he's with us on Mondays. Gary Dietrich, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, pal, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just trusting, Mark, I'll get this out of the way in the first 20 seconds. I'm assuming you have not received one of the FBI letters stating that you have some wiretapping that happened associated with the indicted former chief of staff of the esteemed governor of California. So I want to make sure you did not receive one of those letters. I want to know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, this as part of that corruption investigation is one of the things of the moment in California. It's kind of wild. I've received nothing, but there's still a long way. There's a lot of real estate between now and the end of whenever this ends. We'll see. But I wanted to just button out this Mamdani meeting with a conversation with you about why it might be significant. I was noting that the GOP mainstream anyway, MAGA nation even, like in Mike Johnson kind of guys, they point to him as this is a Democrat. Socialists, they are radical. Even as he won New York, this kind of thinking on the part of the Democrats is wrong for America. And you can see it already beginning to rise in New York. I kind of saw that as spring-loaded to happen. And then when Trump had this friendly meeting and then spoke kind of lavish praise on Mamdani, it seemed like there was maybe something of a recalculation that MAGA Nation is going to have to do in the form of Mike Johnson, in the form of these campaigns and campaign talking points that might emerge. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, let's draw out of the cedar chest. If anybody under 50 even knows what that is, the well-worn phrase of politics make strange bedfellows, and I think you're onto something, Mark, in the outsider commonality here. I mean, Mamdani was seen as a long shot at very best. Come on, going up against the former governor, although seriously politically damaged, Andrew Cuomo. But let's remind ourselves, too, Trump has never seen himself, nor has he been treated as a New York City insider. I mean, he has always been seen as, I don't know about outcast, that may be too strong, but he does not really identify with the political ruling classes, of not only New York City, but New York State. And so let's see where this goes. I think it's also very Trumpian that, there's a lot of lobbing of grenades when you're outside of the actual battlefield, but all of a sudden you get in the same foxhole and, hey, how's it going? And the back slapping and arm slapping. And Mamdani has shown himself capable of that as well. There's another pragmatic side of this that is exceptionally important. And Mamdani has said this himself. Without federal dollars, without federal assent to some of these policies he wants to undertake, many of them have no chance of happening. I mean, and that is just a simple reality that he seems like an exceptionally smart guy and enunciates policy making well. But he's going to have not just, help from Albany and the governor. And let's see where this all takes her in the next year. She could be out herself, Governor Hochul. But, that may be another longer look for Mamdani. Look, I might be working with a Republican governor as well as a Republican president. I can't be the complete anti-R. So we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, there's a pragmatism maybe that is part of this as well. As you say, there has to be a working relationship. Although, Trump just declared to Illinois, you're not going to get federal dollars and federal relief on storm damage. There were huge, huge storms that affected Illinois and for Chicago. And Trump said, because you stood in the way of my ICE agents there, we're not going to get you any federal dollars. So he's certainly capable of dropping the hammer when he has to.
Oh, yeah. And look, tomorrow, all of a sudden, the F word, and by that I mean fascist, we could be hearing out of New York City again, and we could be hearing, quote unquote, Comey out of the White House and the Republicans again. Campaign mode, as is a different mode than governing. And everybody learns that the hard way, like it or not. Once you get through the campaign, now, as we like to say, you got to do something, okay? And both of them, both the president and, Mamdani, have to do something. Let's also remember something else. Like it or not, New York remains a pivotal power center of the United States, economically, and also, by the way, as you know, Mark, continues to be always high on the terrorist targeting list. You have to be careful about places like New York City and other high-profile targets. You got to have a working relationship that might need to be, called into play at a moment's notice.
It was noted in the chat. I mean, I was saying that I thought that Mamdani danced the same dance as the Trump people did, the outsider dance. The institutions of politics aren't serving you. You New Yorkers have been left out, and Cuomo is perhaps definitionally an institutionalist, and that was a very Trumpian message as well. But it was noted in the chat, and I thought it was a good comment, which is that Trump also respects strength on some level. Here it is. Trump is treating Mamdani with way more respect than Senate Leader Schumer. That is interesting. This is from CC Ryder. Trump respects strength and good looks. Mamdani fits that mold. Speak to that comment, if you would.
Well, I do think there's something to that. People have often cited that concept when it comes to things like other global leaders, take it Putin or whoever else, right? But we've seen just in the first few months of the Trump administration, the first 9-10 months, one day he loves Putin, the next day he's a complete outcast, and that's, as you know, that is kind of classic Donald Trump. So let's see where this goes. You could see the Donald, as they used to call him, withhold or threatening to withhold funds from New York City for transportation or other things if Mamdani doesn't do certain things. I mean, this is Donald Trump, part of his playbook. We know that. But it does seem like both of these guys understand at some level, look, regardless of what we think politically, it's going to serve us both well if we have some kind of a working relationship.
Yeah, I think that's such a solid take. I want to get to the other news that broke when we got off the air on Friday, and that was the decision on the part of Marjorie Taylor Greene to resign from Congress. It's a pretty big decision, and it's also a pretty big piece of news, given the fact that she is sort of I was calling her the sort of the Rose Parade queen of MAGA, because she really has been a loyal follower of Donald Trump and defender of Donald Trump, even through some pretty choppy water. So here's a little bit of Marjorie Taylor Greene and her announcement that she dropped on Friday. Go ahead, Tony, please.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest. And the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream. And that breaks my heart. I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that Make America Great Again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First Amendment, Second Amendment, unborn babies, because I believe God creates life at conception, and I love to fight for the little guy. Strong, safe borders, I have fought hard for that. I fought against COVID tyrannical insanity and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars with your hard-earned tax dollars. However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly, resulting in the House not working for the entire time, and we are entering campaign season, which means all courage leaves and only safe campaign re-election mode is turned on in the House of Representatives. During the longest shutdown in our nation's history, I raged against my own speaker and my own party for refusing to proactively work diligently to pass the plan to save Americans' health care and protect Americans from outrageous, overpriced, and unaffordable health insurance policies.
Okay, that's good. To give you a flavor, I wanted to let it breathe a little bit so you could kind of hear. The beginning, the whole thing to me plays a little like a campaign speech, but you first, and then I think there are a couple of different takes on this.
Yeah. First off, I mean, you get this right away, and then it continues through the entire message. Talk about the ultimate outsider message. I mean, she's now positioned herself, Mark, out not only outside of her own party, outside of the entire, to change and borrow a phrase from, President Eisenhower, who said military industrial complex, outside of the political industrial complex. I mean, she has put herself way outside the walls of the universe, right? And it's interesting politically what she does from here. I think most of us believe she's probably destined immediately for the likes of a CNN or a place like that to be, to critique both the Democrats and President Trump. That's what it certainly looks like. But, the hard realities for her politically were were cast over the last 60 days or so. Yes, she was a close supporter of President Trump, unflinchingly so, to your point, Mark, for years, to the point where even people in her own party said, listen, you are almost clear off the reservation here in your unwavering support for Trump. But the important thing is Trump himself, as you know, Mark, in the last 10 days or so, had withdrawn his endorsement and said he was going to primary her. That was the big shoe dropping. There's no way in a state like Georgia she was going to survive a Republican primary and win a general election without the support of Trump and therefore most of the MAGA movement.
So to that, it was a gun to her head kind of decision that she made. She knew it was going to be ugly. She knew she was going to lose. And for that reason, she's resigning and hanging on that resignation. All of these hooks of, the system's broken. I'm disappointed with my party. I am a big advocate for you. And yet my party is no longer the party that I thought it was.
Yeah, well, and she look, there was no close relationship between she and Speaker Johnson, and she made that clear. So part of her challenge was re-election. That's on the election side. Part of it on just the voting and policymaking side, she wasn't taken seriously anymore, even by people in her own Republican conference and even the Freedom Caucus, who at one point tossed her out, and Pelosi, who took away her chair. I mean, her committee assignments. I mean, she had gotten so far outside the realm of the halls. I'm not sure anybody would even sit with her in the House lunchroom anymore, right? She was persona non grata, personified. That worked really well for her politically in her first couple of election cycles. But over time, you either have to deliver for your district, which is tough to do when you're in that position, or you've got to find a way. And let's see if this works out for Thomas Massie in Kentucky, to run anti-everybody and still survive politically.
The Epstein files information release, that was the big watershed politically that produced this kind of acrimony between Trump and MTG. But it was that acrimony, as you suggested, that clearly sparked in her some kind of realization that she had to make a decision, in this case, to resign. It's being played that this is part of a campaign for Senate. She definitely wanted to increase her national profile. I mean, I think she's one of the biggest fundraisers on the GOP side. That firebrand that she's created, Gary, it's worked for her. As you say, even as she's drifted from being relevant from a legislative standpoint. But she wants the Senate. People are suggesting, I've read stuff that, she's interested in a presidential run. Is that the 3D chess? She says no. I mean, she says right up front, no. What I said is what I mean. But it feels, based on those comments, even just the stuff that we heard, like she's laying the groundwork politically with those talking points, the way she presents, towards some kind of other aspiration.
Well, I certainly think a White House bid is a is a big reach at this point for her. I mean, she's a long ways from that. Now, U.S. Senate seats in Georgia, well, those are seemingly up for grabs. At least the GOP is real serious about both of them. And could she survive a Republican primary? If there was a lot of candidates, and the vote was split, she might be able to coalesce enough of the, anti-Washington MAGA base to get there. Now, then could she win a general election in Georgia? That'd be tough. I mean, it would take a reversal now, and that's not impossible. It would take a reversal of the president, and then coming on board saying, well, you know what? Yeah, that was in the past, and we're going to get behind Marjorie to win this thing. I mean, I still think that's probably a long shot in the near term, but she made it clear during the course of her address. And I think most people believe you haven't seen the last of Marjorie Taylor Greene in some.
Right. All right. And then the last point on this is I'm hearing this. MAGA Nation falling apart. They've lost their queen. I mean, there's a fracturing now. And even within MAGA, over the Epstein files, they've lost a lot of their loyalists. They've lost voters they had. This Marjorie Taylor Greene thing is a sign that MAGA Nation is fracturing. Now, I would say quickly kind of what you said, which is, I don't know about that. Trump seems stronger than ever. He leaned on her, said, hey, this is what you're going to get for your disloyalty. We're going to primary you. We're going to beat you. And she, so fearing that, resigned because she knew it was going to be ugly and it was going to lead to a loss. It seems to me Trump has all the power. This lame duck thing and MAGA Nation falling apart, I get it. It may happen, but I'm not seeing it quite as imminent as others.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mark. Now, look, the Epstein issue over the last couple of months, I mean, it's been going on for a couple of years, right? And the MAGA folks, many of them were the ones leading the charge early on, as you know, to release the files. And then Democrats got on board and thought it might be advantageous in terms of their attacks on President Trump and others. And of course, I think as the actual stories of the victims came out, the support for releasing the files grew and grew and grew. Republicans, as well as Democrats, geez, we saw that in the 427-1 vote last week to release the files. So that genie is left, is out of the bottle. Those Epstein files, in some way, shape, or form, I mean, people are going to continue to press for their full release. But I'm not sure that's going to carry the day. It certainly upset a lot of the MAGA people. Yes, seeing what happened to MTG, some people will be upset about that. But the real focus right now, Mark, is on next November. And you've got to turn out the MAGA base in the midterms. That is going to be the sole focus. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene going to have any real effect on that by next summer? Probably not. In the near term, it'll have people frustrated. But come the first of the year, it's going to be all midterms all the time. I mean, there's increasing nervousness in Washington. The Republican bids for the House are not as strong as they might have been a few months ago. And make no mistake about it, I will be surprised. Let me put it this way. I would be surprised to not see Marjorie Taylor Greene out campaigning for some of these House members that she agrees with to try to help either save their seats or pick up seats in the House. That act alone would go a long way towards her political rehabilitation.
Sure, that's a great point. That would build a coalition. This real quick on the way out, Jeff says, Trump is weak, a weak man, and POTUS, he's a weak president, meaning look at the polls, Mark. Now, it's true. Speak to the polls. He's definitely down in the polls with popularity numbers that are lower than he's ever endured. So speak to that, if you would.
Well, a lot of the stuff that's happened just recently, the Epstein files, some of that decline was part of that. Some of the decline was part of people now really, really focused. We know the big A word now, affordability. Both Republicans and Democrats are using that. People are really feeling pinched, Mark, as we come towards the holidays here. That's clearly something that's going to have to be addressed. There is a sense inside the MAGA base that Trump's focused too much on foreign affairs and foreign policy to the exclusion of domestic agendas, which is what they really have focused on for the most part during the campaign, successfully, as you know, against Kamala Harris and formerly Joe Biden. So, Trump's poll numbers, in one sense, never really seem to bother or deter him, but there is nervousness in the House that they are going to, again, I'll go back to, got to turn out the base next November. We're less than a year away from that election. That the Republicans are going to want to see those White House poll numbers inching back up after the first of the year, or they're going to become increasingly concerned.
Yeah, that's to be continued for sure, because as you say, that'll be, a top shelf issue, right? That's the one you lead with, but there's a lot of stuff going on, man. There are a lot of moving parts these days. And the Trump administration has been a disruptor administration. So we'll see if the disruption yields any political fallout or political benefits. So appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, likewise. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your entire audience, Mark.
Thanks so much. Gary Dietrich, everybody. Find Gary on iHeartRadio. You can also find him across the CBS television station universe. And his segment is sponsored by Bill Campbell at RE/MAX Gold. If you're relocating into or from Northern California, a lot of Northern California listeners and viewers here, contact Bill Campbell at RE/MAX Gold. He's a highly respected real estate professional. Again, appreciate him sponsoring Gary's segment. Bill Campbell, RE/MAX Gold. You can text Bill or call him, 530-448-7474. 530-448-7474. Bill Campbell at RE/MAX Gold.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. What a weekend. That's just part of what's happened. I've got this bizarre Kash Patel story. Did you see how he lost it over his girlfriend's SWAT security detail not showing up, leaving early? I'll have that story for you in the next hour. Also, a major announcement from a major friend of the show. J.L. Cauvin is running for Congress, believe it or not. I know. Pretty cool. So J.L. will be by as well. This next segment, though, I look forward to all weekend. So
The Mark Thompson Show.
Really a treat to have Mondays part of our routine now with Sarah Kendzior. Her writings are brilliant. She's a great writer, but her research is so granular when it comes to the development of Trump, when it comes to the development of the institutions of government and of media that have permitted and actually lifted us to this moment with Donald Trump. Here she is, Sarah Kendzior. Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I thought of you because of Missouri actually is, you always write, you live in Missouri and you write, Missouri is like a big part of your writing because as it turns out, it's the center of a lot of stuff. I mean, historically and now. Mm-hmm. And so it's the now part that hit me because I saw that the gerrymandering or redrawing of districts in Missouri now is, they're working, the GOP is working hard to prevent any kind of redrawing that would in any way favor Democrats. And they're doing this in all kinds of different ways, including voter suppression and all the rest. And I just thought of you once again. Missouri finds itself at the center of this controversy around redistricting.
Yeah, I mean, we've been that way for a long while. You know, as I wrote in my book, Hiding in Plain Sight, Missouri was the petri dish for the end of the American experiment. And even before Citizens United was passed, Missouri was where Republicans would test out dark money, propaganda, and also gerrymandering. And I think at this point, you know, it's nationwide. What we do here used to shock people. They used to say, you know, there's no way they could get away with that. Now nobody really doubts it. And, you know, Missouri, since I've lived here for 2 decades, has moved more to the right, although I still think what binds us here is just widespread disillusionment that crosses party lines and isn't we don't feel represented regardless of where we stand politically with this particular state administration.
I remember, here this. San Jose Lola says, Sarah, I just read Hiding in Plain Sight, and they knew. You're amazing. It is so true. Yeah, and there are links to Sarah's books every time we talk to Sarah, there are links to all of her books. But I think it was in Hiding in Plain Sight, I'm trying to remember, where you talk about Missouri and the fact that people ask you, in one of the books you say, people ask you why you don't leave Missouri because there's a lot of wrong with Missouri, and you talk about the fact that it has been the centerpiece of a lot of really ugly stuff. Will you share your answer? Because I thought it was really good.
Well, I'm trying to think. I think around the time that somebody was asking me that, my governor was being indicted for having a sex dungeon in his basement where he tied women to exercise equipment and photographed them half naked and blackmailed them. And I'm not even sure that's what he got indicted for. I think it was one of many things. He ultimately went free, ran for Senate again. And that's what happens in Missouri. That was Eric Greitens. I think almost all of my representatives have been indicted. I know my county representative just got indicted, and the one before that got indicted. And it doesn't matter what party you're in. The Democrats get indicted, the Republicans get indicted. I mean, honestly, we're maybe ahead of the game with the indictments, because usually people commit tons of crimes and they don't get indicted for anything. But they're left free to run and run again. Corruption is so ubiquitous that it kind of goes ignored. And another very unfortunate thing that's happened in Missouri in the last year is the loss of even more local media. We used to have a good alternative weekly here in St. Louis, the Riverfront Times, that would break down these types of stories. Now we're really kind of lost. So I can't even give you a good, Missouri crime and corruption story, because they're just told to me through gossip at this point, just how people in studies in countries I used to study, when I studied the former Soviet Union, like Uzbekistan, their word for gossip is mishmish. And I feel like that's a much better word than ours. Mishmish sounds like gossip. And, we have Missouri mishmish now. That's the level we've been reduced to. So
I feel like we have national mishmish in the sense that, you're right. More and more of the oasis of great journalism and newspaper reporting, which sometimes takes time, that's just drying up. And you end up with mainstream media cowed by an administration that's ready to threaten them with pulling their licenses, ready to sue them, which this administration has successfully done. And there was a cut actually from Meet the Press with Mamdani. And I thought of you also, Sarah Kendzior, because this is... And you write about the way the media enabled and almost lifted Trump up. They kind of varnished all of his past, and they wrote about him lavishly, and the connections that Roy Cohn had and Trump had to media, and making sure that the image of Trump was manicured so wonderfully, and an image was created. And so I thought of you because this was the kind of softball question that showed up on Meet the Press. Tony, play just this cut. I just couldn't believe it. It was so I don't know. Here it is. Go ahead.
To be able to live there.
But did you expect it to be so chummy? What was going through your head when you were standing there?
You know, I thought again and again about what it would mean for New Yorkers if we could establish a productive relationship that would focus on the issues that those New Yorkers stay up late at night thinking about. Because so
he brought it back to policy. She asked, what was going through your head as you had this chummy meeting with Donald Trump? I mean, there's just, it's so tepid as a question. And yet, again, I give Mamdani credit for bringing it back to those things that vaulted him to victory, which affordability and those things that are important to New Yorkers. However you've got to get there is kind of what he was saying.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I find all of those programs worthless, and I think that I'm really in the majority at this point. They've brought it upon themselves through just declining quality, but also there's just been a sea change in how people watch TV, where a lot of people cut the cord. They're not getting cable news, which is probably good. They're not getting regular news. They don't want to meet the press. And I think that the influence of that just isn't taken seriously, especially if you're like under 35 years old. I'm not sure people even know those programs exist. And a lot of times I'll be on social media and I'll see kind of legacy journalists bemoaning the fact that something didn't make, quote, the front page. And I'm just thinking, how many people know what like a front page is or what this means? I know certainly my kids don't have the same kind of conception of it as I did just, growing up with newspapers and whatnot. And so I don't know. I feel like there's so much time dwelling on that. And like the real crisis is just the lack of coverage of everyday life. In major cities like mine, like St. Louis is a city, metro region of 3 million people. We should have, better media. But especially in smaller towns and places that are isolated, and then they end up having to rely not even on national news, but on, national gossip, national lies, national innuendo, memes, Facebook, what their, friend on next door told them down the street. Like, we don't have a reliable way of getting information, and we don't even have the kind of, state statistics that used to be provided to us by governments. The Trump administration, this version of it in particular, has annihilated a lot of those websites. So if we really did, in good faith, want to go do our own research about what's going on in, say, public health or the environment, climate, what have you, it's very difficult to do that now. They're getting us to a point where I think people are both panicking and just kind of shrugging their shoulders at the same time. And that's not to say people don't care. It's just they look at this and they're like, how the hell am I supposed to find out what's going on? And honestly, I work as a journalist. I think about how I wrote my past books. And I think, what if I were to set out and do that now? Absolutely would not be able to. Everything is deleted, paywalled, sued out of existence. It's a real crisis of information.
It's interesting because I talk to kids who are interested in journalism, going into journalism, and they're obviously going to have to navigate, as you suggest, sort of a very different landscape than the one that you navigated or that I navigated. So it really is, it's interesting to see that evolution. I wonder where we're going from the standpoint of the future. And I have a question that isn't going to be popular because I find that people don't give an S about the environment. It would seem as a whole, it's just incredible to see the EPA dismantled and have these toxins and poisons in water, in soil, in the air, to see the protections afforded by the Endangered Species Act, or even basic protections around whales and other creatures that are clearly endangered. I mean, that you can put your eyeballs on and get your head around. These protections are all kind of rolled back. And they do get a little bit of oxygen in media, but generally speaking, there just isn't we do a segment called It's the Planet Stupid on this show every week. And it does some of the lowest numbers because people they don't lock into this. So I ask you as a mother with kids, and kids, I think, do see a future. And we just finished this huge environmental conference in which the U.S. completely abstained from any kind of participation. And so when we look at the future of the planet, I wonder if you, with a background in anthropology and sort of cultural evolution, societal evolution, if you can speak to why we as a society evolved in so many ways, just ignore this as an urgent issue.
I I mean, I think folks do care. I honestly think they care deeply, and I think this spans generations. And I definitely think it spans party lines. I do live in a very corrupt Republican-run state. It's also a state of conservationists. We have some of the greatest, conservation experts and state parks that are all free, and hunters and fishermen and hikers and canoers. Like it's a great place for the outdoors, and people really treasure that. I'm among many, who find a kind of reprieve in that. And I think that that's something that tends to be true nationwide, especially if you live in any kind of state where there's a lot of, rural wilderness to explore. The problem is corporations don't care, never have cared. Have always just come out and, used our land for mining or for, all sorts of other ventures. And now I think the biggest problem is AI, and what AI is threatening to do to the environment at an extremely rapid rate, including water consumption, where we already have a problem with that, because of climate increase. And this is something that people aren't out there demanding AI. What they're actually demanding is a cleaner environment. People love to go and visit all of our national parks. Like tourism is through the roof. Same with state parks. People, in part, young people like to go and take photos of these places and show them on social media. That's kind of the way that they grew up. But it doesn't mean they don't sincerely like them. They do. But I don't see an endless demand for, chat bots and robots to take away the water and environmental protections we have that make those places that are already, kind of precarious and are endangered possible. And so it's a frustrating situation, one of many, I think, where the vast majority of Americans are on one side and our government, which is beholden to its donors and corporate power, is on another.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's really the power of the corporatocracy, if you will, that sort of keeps it the way it is. It's just so sad, and I see that those with kids and kids themselves feel invested in the future. I have no kids, but I can't believe it. I'm a tree hugger, and I just can't understand how lonely it is out here. But this you've written about, and this is a comment from Richard Delamater says, Sarah, when Roe went down, what was the feeling amongst you in Missouri, women, moms in your hometown? Do your children now understand? Love Road Trip. Yeah, you wrote about this. It's pretty poignant how you wrote about this in Road Trip, as I recall.
Yeah, that's in the first chapter of my book, The Last American Road Trip, which I encourage people to buy. I go into it in great detail. I was taken back by how strongly I reacted to Roe, and it was much more of an issue of the government has taken away my bodily autonomy, and my daughter and I have a teenage daughter, teenage son. We now have fewer rights than my husband and my son. And to have it, you wake up one day and then, a group of, bureaucrats rules that way, and suddenly you don't have rights. It's just a gutting and surreal and invasive experience. And I remember the next day, crossing over the bridge to Illinois, like I'm just 20 minutes away, where I do have that right. I do have my bodily autonomy there, seeing if I felt any different. There's always been this borderland where I live, in Missouri, and particularly in St. Louis, on the Mississippi River. This is where Dred Scott had his case held. It's where he escaped. And so there's always been this, tenuous border between what is free and what is not. And when you're kind of a firsthand witness, like we were the first state that overturned it. We had a quote trigger law in place that meant that if the Supreme Court overturned Roe, we automatically lost our rights. So we were the first state to have that happen. And I just kind of, I describe in the book what I did, like, going out alone, kind of contemplating this. But in general, women in all of these states that are dismissed as quote red states, we tended to react the same way. And again, this spans party lines. Like there's a big libertarian streak out here. It was there in Kansas too, where it didn't have to do so much with reproductive rights in particular, or women's rights, as much as it had to do with bodily autonomy and the state having the right to tell you what you can and can't do with your own body, and having information about your personal health. Kansas struck struck it down immediately. And then in our last election, Missouri struck it down. So we do have that right again. But of course, our state legislature couldn't care less. They're busy trying to take that right away from us, even though we've shown as a state what we want. They do this all the time. They did this with, labor laws. They did this with anti-corruption laws. Like, we keep voting for these ballot initiatives and they just shrug and say, who cares? And that, again, was a prelude for the national scene. That is how the Trump administration works. And that was how Missouri was working beforehand. We were always called the bellwether state. We were the state that could predict the general direction of the country. We tended to be ignored in recent years. This is sort of backwater, but I think we should have been, seen as a harbinger, because we were, the state that was going to tell you, like, the whole country is about to become a backwater that does not have actual representation. I haven't felt represented in Congress since Cori Bush left. Like, Israel is represented by my, representative who got the largest amount of money ever for this district history, from AIPAC. They ran a campaign that was entirely about Israel and not about St. Louis. This is Wesley Bell versus Cori Bush. It was a surreal experience to live through that and just see all of our local issues played down and ignored. But that is yet another example of things that are starting to happen nationwide.
Yeah, I mean, I think that playing up Gaza, it became this front and center issue. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it was, it's heartbreaking and awful. But there was a complete sort of exclusion of a lot of other stuff as we talked about Gaza, to the point that, in the general, in Michigan, the Arab community came out in support of GOP, or they voted for a third party. They didn't support Biden because those policies were so flawed. And it was just, that seemed like, but they became so obsessed with Gaza. I understand why, particularly in that community. But I guess what I'm saying is, your point is so well taken, that the centerpiece of conversation and of politics can be so moved by corporate media and by money that just drenches the system, that one loses track of the things that are really important. And you're worrying about Gaza while you still can't afford to put food on the table.
I don't think that those are mutually exclusive, though. It's like, as Ta-Nehisi Coates says, like, if you don't draw the line at genocide, if you don't take a stand on genocide, you're not going to take a stand on democracy. And, I support the Arab voters, or any voters who refrained from voting in the last election. Both Biden and Trump are absolutely abhorrent when it comes to, Palestine, Palestinian rights, Gaza, their relationship with Netanyahu. I think that Netanyahu's hold on the United States, which, goes back decades, he's bragged about it publicly. There are videos of him confessing to it, needs to be examined in great detail. But, these, in that case, things go together. What happened here was a weirder thing, where there were, these sort of ultra Zionist groups pretending to be progressives. Like, I get these, pamphlets in the mail from a mysterious group called Progressives for Missouri. And I'm like, who the hell is that? And it turned out to be Republicans. It turned out to be hard right GOP Zionists pretending to be Democrats, pretending to be progressives, in order to get Cori Bush out, because she was talking about genocide in Gaza and she was criticizing Israel. But yeah, the broader point of, like, they don't care about us as Americans. Like, our politicians just have very little interest in our daily lives, our daily struggles. They're much more concerned with their donors wherever they're from. They're concerned with making money off of their position, which many have made millions after they enter Congress. Like, Congress shouldn't be seen as a way to, increase your stock portfolio, or to, become a multimillionaire several times over. Like, it should be a mode of public service. But that's like I can hear people laughing in my head when I say that out loud, because it's been such a long time that anybody's really conceived of it in that light.
Well, I mean, I have friends who work at CNBC as correspondents, et cetera, and they have to divest themselves of everything, and they put it all in a blind trust before they can even report there at CNBC.
Yeah.
We don't have such a deal with our own legislators who are deciding on the fates of these corporations and approving these various mergers.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't think anybody, I think everyone should have to give up, most everything. Then you'll see who really is, invested in this.
Well, just because we're talking
venture.
conflict of interest, play the Chris Murphy. I like this breakdown I mean, I go off on the Saudis here all the time, and I can play the shifting for you, who spoke about it too. But Murphy talks about the conflicts of interest that are alive and well within. I mean, they're better than alive and well. I think that they lead the parade transactionally in this administration. Go ahead, please, Tony.
Video I did just a few months ago about a little-known Florida drone company called Unusual Machines. Specifically, Donald Trump Jr. just went on the advisory board of a very small drone company called Unusual Machines based out of Florida. And as soon as he went on the board, guess what happened? The stock price of this company doubled, like overnight. Because, you know, in this environment, in this White House, everybody knows when the fix is about to be in. And guess what this little Florida company just announced? They are getting a huge contract from the Department of Defense. So Donald Trump Jr. goes on this board, he has a $4 million investment, and then months later, they get this enormous contract from the federal government. It's for drone motors. Apparently, they just started making drone motors like 5 minutes ago. The corruption is just so bold and brazen. It used to be that people who were on the take would try to hide it. The Trump family doesn't even try to hide it any longer. They're just literally robbing from you. And it's your money. And this is taxpayer dollars. Last week, Donald Trump says that he's going to make the Department of Justice pay him hundreds of millions of dollars for grievances that he made up about how he was treated by the Department of Justice before he became president. Now Donald Trump Jr. is just awarding himself, we don't even know how much money yet, probably millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars for a company that he just went on the board of. This is outrageous. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you should be outraged by this, because once you are able as president of the United States to just steal from taxpayers, like every day, that's a genie that you don't get to put back in the bottle.
So you write, you read about this, and we were talking about corruption, and so I just thought I'd play that cut for you. Speak to that, if you would, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for me to hear it, because when he says, you know, Donald Trump isn't hiding this any longer, I'm like, when exactly was the point that Donald Trump was hiding his corruption? Because as a small child, I watched it happen. You know, as a child watching Sesame Street, I watched Sesame Street characters parody Donald Trump's corruption. When I was watching a show called Erie, Indiana, there was a character, which is, you know, again, a preteen kids show. There's a character called the Donald, who was literally Satan, who got sent back to hell after he was busted for tax fraud, because I, as a 12-year-old, was expected to know that Donald Trump was associated with tax fraud. Like, that is how widely reported all of this was, is that little kids of the 80s like me, you know, we knew about it, and we were also supposed to know about it. He was the bad guy. So if I knew about it, what the hell was Chris Murphy doing? I mean, I know what he was doing during the first Trump administration, because I kept trying to tell him things that Donald Trump and his, you know, office were doing, including these kleptocratic endeavors, and pushing for impeachment and saying, you know, this is very urgent. This is not the typical kind of, you know, greed that you, of course, see in every administration. This is something much broader, much more insidious. This is transnational in nature. It involves organized crime. Completely no interest on his part. You know, the interest they're showing now in things like Epstein, organized crime, the kleptocracy of the Trump family, you know, is new, but the issues themselves are old. And they again make me wonder, what'd you do with those 4 years of the Biden administration, especially the first two, when you had the House and you had the Senate, and you could have really put a, you know, the kibosh on this corruption, or at least open investigations into it, and then we wouldn't be living in our current hell. But that's one of the things that's been very frustrating to me, is why, when Donald Trump is so open and flagrant about all of the crimes he's committing. I mean, this is why my books are called Hiding in Plain Sight, and they knew, you know, are officials so timid in prosecuting him? And I think we've seen some of that. It's like he threatens people, he threatens them with physical violence, he threatens their family members. But that makes it all the more important that you prevent a guy like that, a known threat, from reaching the level of the presidency in the first place. Because once you open that door, you know, it's very, very hard to get him out. And it's not just him, it's this whole cohort and gang behind him. But that's the question I think is the most interesting, is like, they completely knew who this guy was, the FBI, the CIA. So, you know, I've written quite a lot about why I think this has happened, and none of it makes any of those institutions look good. But I wish our senators and our House representatives and so forth, Congress, would speak out in a more forthright manner about the complicity that had to be involved in order to make this nightmare possible.
Well, the complicity you write about just literally chapter and verse, and you really saw it. I mean, as you suggest, when Biden slow walked through Merrick Garland any kind of charges, and as you say, the beginning of his administration was really the chance to crack back and to really prevent it. I mean, it preceded that. Again, you've written about this, but I'm astounded that these guys are ruthless, and you go ahead and let ruthlessness take power in the way that they have, and you've reflected I guess an allegiance to institutions, or an allegiance to that which is no longer, because you've now allowed the ascendance of this ruthlessness to a power that I don't know they're going to give up.
Yeah, I mean, what's happened is, the Democrats cloak themselves in institutionalism. That's what they would say about Merrick Garland, like he's an institutionalist, and they would neglect to mention that the institution that he is representing and working for is fundamentally corrupt and is in fact protecting decades of corruption, not just of Trump, but of people in that circle. And, I go into detail in an article I wrote called Servants of the Mafia State, that's on my Substack newsletter, about the history of Merrick Garland, and, which is just decades of covering up for more corrupt actors. That is what the Attorney General of the United States has done. And for, administrations on end, Bill Barr, the cover-up general, was doing it before he was. And, the Merrick Garland story is quite long and convoluted, but to give you the short version in regard to Trump, like he was mentored by Jared Kushner's ethics lawyer. And so I don't know why people were ever thinking that Merrick Garland was going to do anything about Trump. And I think as, quote, revelations come out that yes, in fact, he was doing nothing when it looked like he was doing nothing, it's because he was doing nothing. It's not because he was playing 4D chess. It's not because he had a secret plan. It's not because he was working behind the scenes. He was doing nothing. He was letting our democracy and our best chance at fixing this and really delving deeply and gutting out, all of these bad actors slip away. I'm surprised there's not more blowback about him, but there wasn't about Mueller, Vance, so many, Cyrus Vance, so many of the other, DOJ and judges and stuff that have let this crime syndicate slip through their fingers. And why? I mean, it's not a question of whether for me, it's why. It's the more granular detail of why this particular person might be compromised or unwilling to, uphold their duty to protect the American people, because that's what Merrick Garland should have been doing. Absolutely didn't do. If I were him, I'd wake up every day in shame, in despair. But I don't think he has that kind of conscience.
And as Biden should, for having appointed him.
Absolutely.
This is CC Ryder. I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask you. Would Sarah ever consider running for office? We need strong, fearless women like her who can effectively articulate positions without wavering. Sarah is a powerful influencer.
Well, thank you. But, I thought y'all liked me. This is not something you'd want to wish upon someone that you like. This would be like a punishment for me. This is like when people are like, why don't you go and meet the press? I'm like, you think I want to meet the press? Like, absolutely not. I'm not a bureaucrat. I would not be good at that job. I think there are people out there who would be good at that job, who likely do not have the kind of big donor support and so forth. So, look for the folks who actually want to do it and aren't there to do it to get to do the things that I do, like write books or be on podcasts. Because I think there's a lot of, Congress people and politicians that just see this as a route to celebrity or whatever. And it's just, it's ridiculous. They should be doing their job and I should be doing mine.
Well, you've found your lane, and it is a lane that really does make a difference and spreads a lot of information and story that people are completely unaware of. And your books are revelations, and your Substack as well. We'll have a link to all of it under this video. So there's nothing wrong with not being in Congress. There may be everything right with not being in Congress. Yeah, exactly. There might be a lot right with it. All right, listen, have a great holiday. And
yeah, you too.
We'll talk next week. Thank you, as always, Sarah Kendzior.
Right. Thank you.
So long, Sarah. Again, there are links to all of Sarah's books and her Substack under this video. And thanks again to her. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let me catch up with some super stickers, super chats. Thank you, everybody who participates in the show and does support us with super stickers and super chats. Federal judge dismissed cases against Comey and James. What a shocker. But I'm sure it will go so much better for Clown Patel and IPA Pete. That's, of course, the Pentagon chief investigating M. Kelly. Yeah, this is a story because we kind of got into the Mamdani thing that I didn't get a chance to get into in a big way. Let me get into it now. Just to update you, as you know. In fact, I was, it's funny, Kim, I didn't tell you this, but I was dickering with, changing our thumbnail to actually talk about the jihad that the Pentagon is going on against Mark Kelly, because Kelly was one of those who was part of the video that called for military service members to disobey unlawful orders. So Trump demanded that the lawmakers who appeared on that video all be arrested and put on trial, right? And then there was, we talked about this. We covered this story last week. And I don't know how to take that.
The latest is that the Department of War says it's opened an investigation, a thorough review, they say, of allegations of misconduct by Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. They say they received serious allegations of misconduct against the retired Navy captain. Unclear what exactly those claims are. But this after Kelly and Democrats, as you say, Mark, were featured in a viral video urging service members to refuse unlawful orders.
Yeah, Mark Kelly is, to what I've known of him, is such a brilliant legislator on the right side of things. The family, of course, has been informed by political violence. His wife, Gabby Gifford, shot, survival of that awful incident, but her life forever changed. She had to resign her seat because of that. And he says, your continued threats will not intimidate me or keep me from doing my job, which includes oversight of the executive branch. Stop the threats of execution, hanging, and sending a mob before someone gets hurt. And we talked the other day about the fact that there are already threats to all of those who appear in that video, and they've had to petition for additional security, etc. But absolute insanity. Meantime, on the other side of town, as was noted there, the case against James Comey and Letitia James dismissed. The attorney handling the cases not lawfully appointed, according to the judge. The attorney is sort of the like, what's wrong with this picture person associated with this case, meaning you couldn't get any legit attorney and prosecutor, as most of you all know. We'll just review it here in a sentence or four. To prosecute this case. So you fired you fired the people at the Justice Department and said, hey, there's just no there. We can't prosecute this case. And you hire Lindsay Halligan, the Donald Trump affiliated insurance lawyer, handpicked to bring this prosecution. She brings it together in this slipshod, is that the word? I think I said slapshod last week. Slipshod way, in this, thrown together way. And so there's all kinds of stuff that is wrong with this. But more fundamentally, the judge writes, Halligan was not appointed in a manner consistent with the framework associated by law, associated and prescribed by law. So the appointment, and many appointments like it, reflect a kind of general strategy on the part of the Trump administration, which is to take advantage of loopholes in the law that allow you to make an interim appointment or a temporary appointment, and that's a way to install Trump loyalists who otherwise wouldn't pass muster, right? But anyway, it all came apart today because the judge said, no, she doesn't belong here, and this case I'm throwing out. So both cases were thrown out against Comey and against Letitia James, right?
Which in part, I kind of wish that it would have been the charges that were shown to be ridiculous, because we know that that is also the case, and that it wouldn't have been, these cases wouldn't have been tossed out on the merits of the prosecutor at hand, but whatever. I mean, it was a goner either way, right?
Right, exactly. So anyway, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Last week, MBS on MTS. That's right, we did have MBS on. Now, MTG on MTS. The last angry Manny making a point. It's true, how times have changed. Trump, transparent. Oh, transparency. I get it, says Tom Gray, 6463. Thank you for that.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Jim Slayton as well. Jim Slayton, 1613 with a $5 super sticker. Thank you for that. For the Epsteinth time, release the files. Says
Fat Raccoon Man.
Fat Raccoon Man. All right. Thank you. A little hard for me to see on this tiny screen. Kathleen Bryant with a $20 super sticker. It's so generous and so welcome.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Kathleen Bryant. Yeah, appreciate it.
We might actually be okay after playing the Jimmy Cliff songs.
Yeah, if you just joined us, we played a couple of Jimmy Cliff songs. We're going to be demonetized today. Live or Live the Santa Cruz Life. Sorry, Live the Santa Cruz Life. A super sticker for $5.
Big shout
What's
out.
up, Santa Cruz? What a great place to live, man. Santa Cruz. Wow. So cool. MTG is nothing but another distraction, Mark. So I kind of addressed this, Chaplain Fred. I don't think that's true. I think she's something of a bellwether. I think she can kind of tell you what's going on. And I also feel as though, as I made the point to Gary Dietrich, I think that the reports of Donald Trump's demise are greatly exaggerated. He literally pointed to her and said, her, the disloyal one, we're going to go after her. And she believed it. And she withdrew from Congress because of it, in my view. There was a controversy. 1 week from tonight, we have a special event. It is the... Do you have the graphics, Tony, for the special event? Somebody
I'm excited. We've got some great guests lined up.
Thanks, Tony. We do. We've got... this show was born of a radio station in San Francisco that dissolved. We had a very successful radio show there, but we were kind of the victim of corporate holdings. That is to say, big, powerful media company called Cumulus owns so many stations, and they just kind of begin to just do the arithmetic, and they get rid of, the news department, the producers, hosts, call screeners, engineers. It's a lot cheaper. You just run syndicated programming, and that way they got rid of this big station.
The minute they cut the news cars, Mark, I should have known.
Yeah, I mean, I see it happening elsewhere.
Yeah,
Tony. I'll just put it that way.
Thanks, Tony.
Where they have to make some. Anyway, the station goes away. And all the hosts go away. And people like John Rothman came over here once a week. John was a host on the show. And Pat Thurston, Nikki Maduro, these are names that mean something to people who are former listeners of the station. Well, Pat Thurston and Nikki Maduro both agreeing to come through the Holiday Hoedown, which is a week from tonight. 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, December 1st. It's our Holiday Hoedown Throwdown. We want you to be part of it as well. Please join us. It's always fun. I think Spencer Christian is coming through, Josh Mankiewicz coming through, a lot of people who you don't see on the show normally. And as I say, and Pat and Nikki and John. Anyway, December 1st, 6 o'clock. If you want to join us, 2 hours of hoeing down, plenty of time for each person to have a chance to ask questions, to throw in with any kind of conversation. Here's how you secure a spot. $50 donation via PayPal. Note HH when you make the PayPal contribution so we know it's for that. $50 donation to PayPal. Note HH or Hoedown or Holiday. Then send an email to confirm your spot saying, hey, I made the donation on PayPal. Please hold my spot. And you'll send that email to mtsmeetup@gmail.com. So again, PayPal for the $50, note HH, then you send an email to mtsmeetup@gmail.com. We've got a really good crowd. And the controversy around it came through one of our regular listeners and viewers, Richard Delamater, Kim. He's kind of a party boy,
He is. He was definitely, you know, rocking and rolling on the last meetup.
He was rolling for sure. I don't know how much rocking was going on, but definitely Richard, I enjoy hearing from him. And the only thing that happened is somehow he kind of said, I'm not going to come. And if you don't, I was the most fun thing in the meetup, and, you know, you need more me. And, you know, but then he wrote me 4 different emails apologizing for that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. He feels really bad about it.
Okay.
And so he writes this today with a $5 super chat. This is the Richard Delamater I'm speaking of. Dearest Mark, I am ever so sorry for sending that horrible email. I'm a pompous jackass. Can you and Courtney please forgive me? Love, Scrooge. He says, no, I said, don't worry about it. He said, no, I'm awful. He was full of self-loathing. So, Richard, all is forgiven. Don't worry about it, you know. He says, sometimes, you know, I get too much party and too much, you know, and then he said, I get a little in the bag and I say stuff I shouldn't, you know.
Yeah.
Which is,
we all have our moments,
yeah,
right?
It's okay. You're among friends. We appreciate your support of the show. And don't worry about it. All is forgiven. Meanwhile, he wants his rod of equity and mercy. Do we,
Does he did he ever get one, or is he?
I don't know if he got one or not. He says that he said he had it, but he lost it. I don't know. I mean, for that, I need to. Well, it's a good opportunity to give everybody the rod. This is a holiday rod of equity and mercy. It's a special.
You're being extra benevolent right now, because
really
usually you
Yeah.
have to really earn the rod of equity and mercy, and I feel like you're just willy-nilly passing it out.
Well, I'm not willy-nilly, but I am filled with holiday generosity.
Do you know who I am?
Yes, I'm
kind of a big deal.
I feel like that's the right way to be, Kim. You're a little more something.
What?
Well, I'm full of generosity and about the rod of equity, and you want to be a little more. What am I trying to say? Miserly about it.
Stingy. Yeah.
Stingy. Yeah. You know. And on the rod of equity, I have more generosity than Kim does. She's generous in other ways, but when it comes to the rod, she's just very.
Oh wow.
All right. Here is the. I need to get into a kind of. Oh, is that if I play the chant, do we get demonetized?
Yeah, the chant got us hit last time. Remember?
Oh my God! I can't believe
Now we have to cut that part out too.
Oh my God, Tony, you're gonna get to.
Tony's going to be cutting all over the place.
I can't play my chant.
Sally Shoemaker says, "Rods of equity for all, and for all a good night."
I got. Let me see if I have a. Do I have a backup chant? This is awful.
Maybe one is okay, but I know one of them you played got us nailed last time.
Yeah.
So
I think this is a good one. I think this is okay.
We'll find out.
But I don't know. Anyway, let me just. I'll quickly get to trance state. All right. Kim, I can hear you. It takes me out of my chance doing trance when I hear you.
It's trying to be quiet.
All right.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy. Receive the rod of equity and mercy. Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
Man. I'm not as young as I used to be. It takes a lot out of me. But you all get it. And again, with it comes a blessing that you will have for life. So wear it well, my friends. Wear it well. Speaking of blessings, smash the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
And subscribe to the show. Share the show. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell when you subscribe, which lets you know whenever there's a new video. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. It will bring you happiness and peace through the holidays. So don't do it for me. Do it for you. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. Hollywood Cowgirl says in a $10 super chat, just because my bank account is holding up, here's $10.
Big shout out.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Appreciate all the support. All of you who subscribe to the show, Patreon, PayPal. Mark is receiving many positive letters. It is true.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
I have gotten some positive letters. I got a couple of shakedown letters with Richard, but he seems to be back on board. So that's the good news. Mark is going to break into a cold sweat when he sees that it's an email from Richard. PTSD. I know. I don't know what to expect with Richard, but he's kind of a character in the show. So, Jim Shields says, the show has gone off the rails. Mark, in this era, you need to be paid off before bestowing the rod. You're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Where's your cash?
I need full corruption.
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
I need the mob. I need Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Fish, to really set it up. All right, I've got a special announcement from a special friend, and let's get it on. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
If you know this show at all, you know that this is one of our favorite personalities on the show. He does a Trump impression. He does a Musk impression. He does so many... I think the brilliance of J.L. Cauvin is not just the impression. He does so much within the impression. Like he channels the world of Trump and does a wall-to-wall Trump. If you haven't seen this special, I think it's available on YouTube, in front of a Canadian audience. You know how Trump smack-talked Canada and continues to smack-talk Canada. And so JL actually did a show as Trump in front of a Canadian audience in Canada. And he never breaks character as Trump. And it's wonderful. So you must check it out. But in addition to all of his entertainment and all the funny stuff, he has some really sharp takes on what's going on in the world. I mean, he's a trained attorney and he's operated at the highest levels when it comes to the law. And so he's turned his intellect and his takes on what's going on now outside the world of comedy. And that stuff is available in his podcasts, which you should check out as well. But that's not it. There is an announcement he has today, independent of those two things. And for that, I welcome him, J.L. Cauvin, everyone.
My announcement is I also just received a 100,000 subscriber plaque from YouTube. Thank you, everybody. That's all I have. No, I am running a very long shot, but very energized campaign to get on the ballot for the special election Democratic primary in New Jersey's 11th district to replace Mikey Sherrill, who just resigned to become governor of New Jersey.
What? Yes, yeah. It's exciting. It's exciting.
And by exciting, I've lost like 9 pounds since Friday because I am not eating too much. I am running around 16 hours a day trying to get signatures. Now, you've heard me talk enough where I am not sort of the rabble-rousing. The real problem is Democrats are terrible too. I am a proud Democrat who sees them having a little bit of a weak moment. The historical arc of America in the last 100 years is basically just a hall of fame of major Democratic accomplishments, from the New Deal to the Great Society to Clinton job growth to Obamacare to Biden's Infrastructure Act and the things he was able to pull together in 2 years with zero majority in Congress. And yet we are stuck in this 50-50 tie with Republicans where people just think, we hate the nanny that is the Democratic Party, so we'll go with the abusive, alcoholic, deadbeat father that is the Republican Party. And the key now is, and people have been very generous with donations, and we hope that continues. But the urgency now, and anybody, JL4NJ.com is the website. You can see sort of some of my main policy ideas and obviously donate buttons. But by Monday, December 1st, they raised this year in New Jersey, which is my first taste of, I guess, New Jersey politics. It had been 200 signatures for however long. They raised it to 500 signatures this year, and they gave us 10 days to get 500 signatures.
When you say they, who does that?
The man. No, yeah. The Democratic, I guess the legislature in the state, which is sort of, I guess, Democratic run. And I'm not sure. They decided it in the spring, I guess, when they saw what was happening, that it was going to be basically Sherrill and Chittarelli. But 200, I would probably be done by before Thanksgiving.
Right.
500, I'm going to be sweating bullets at 3 p.m. on Monday as I like try to run this to a courthouse. Or
Can you, Tony? Can you call up the website? It's JL4NJ. You can't find it.
Not the number. Well, the number should take you there, but it's just JLFORNJ.com. There I am.
Yeah, there you are. Look at you.
Can you tell that smile is like 85% natural?
I like it. I really like it. We'll send you some money.
Thank
and when
you.
I say will, I mean me. But
whoa, shots fired, Courtney.
I got but I'm excited for you, and I'm but let me just for a moment double back to the threshold you need. You need 500 signatures, and that's what
Yes.
you're scrambling to get.
Yes, and if it's okay that I share with the audience, in case there's some NJ11 folks, and obviously, my nephew's coming home from college Tuesday night. Hey, if you're a college student who's registered in the district, you obviously haven't signed a petition yet because you've been at college. I'm happy. I'm going to put all my locations out, and I'm just asking anybody and everybody, if you have family or friends or students coming home that are New Jersey 11 residents or registered Democrats in NJ 11, they can sign, and I would love them to sign. And it's really to get me on the ballot, because then that gives me 2 months of a special election to make my case, to reach thousands more people on a serious note, and to draw a contrast between a field that genuinely feels like, yes, everybody is going to be a good Democrat. Everybody's probably going to range between, left and progressive, and people will be like, yeah, I'm mostly happy, so that's good. And most of these people will not raise the profile. I think the problem right now is the Democratic Party has the accomplishments and has very few people to trumpet them in a way that reach people and educate people and in a way they want to hear and want to listen to and want to engage with. And, I think my legal background should make people at least feel safe that they're not sending a clown in. My community service background is so there's a decent heart there. And the comedy stuff is a complete plus, because you don't vote for a Navy SEAL. When people vote for a military guy, they're not doing it because they think he can, take out the other side with a sniper rifle. They're doing it for the values, the experience, what they think that person's character is. And comedy, you can look at jokes all you want, but basically I'm a 20-year single business, small business owner, and at times the smallest business in America, possibly. But that's the kind of, that's the combo I think that the Democratic Party needs. Doesn't mean this has to be my seat or I'm the chosen one, but I said, let me get in this because there need to be people like me in our political party. If it's me, great. I will do the best, most honorable, passionate job I can for my district and for the party. And I say the party because look at the two parties. Like, I'm not trying to be partisan. Like, one is a cesspool, and the other is like a good guy struggling to do well. Yeah. And I just think if it's not me, it doesn't have to be me. But I'm anxious. I've been stressed about this decision for a while. But I said, well, why not me? Even if it's not me to get elected, I want to get elected. I want to get the signatures. That's incredibly important right now, that I get these signatures and can continue this making this case. But if it's not me, well, let me get in and show that maybe you can do it, or maybe you can make a case, and maybe somebody who's a little better, a little more experienced, or not funnier, obviously, but can see this and improve upon it if I fail. But I don't want to fail, because I think I can bring something good to the table and unique. That it's not. So that's my broad non-policy case for staying in the race. So if I have time, can I just shoot a couple of locations in case you have?
Of course, please. That's why you're here. Let's do it.
So tonight, it's Monday night. I will be at the Glenridge Starbucks. It's almost like my comedy career. You can catch me at diners and coffee shops.
Yeah, the Glenridge Starbucks. All right.
From 6 to 8 tonight. Tomorrow night from 6:30 to 9:30. I will be at Nevada Diner, which is in Bloomfield, New Jersey. This is only obviously for people who are anywhere
who are in
near
Jersey.
The area.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I'm also telling people, imagine this was the most important show of my life. Like, imagine I was retiring from comedy and you were a 40-minute drive away. You know, just it may not be a thing you want to do if I was just like, hey, meet me for coffee for no reason. But it's like, this is a chance to get me into a Democratic primary and to mix things up and to speak like a normal person, like the way normal people want to hear, like somebody that will connect. And the more of me, you need a diverse coalition of thought, of style, of intellect, of et cetera. But people like me, I think, need to be in it. If it's not me, that's okay. But I think the more I'm in this, the better the better it will go. I really believe that.
Dip a toe into politics, says a CC writer. Test the waters. Heck, look at Zelensky, former comedian and actor, is now holding his own against two formidable foes, Putin and Trump. That's one way to look at it. I hadn't actually thought about it that way, but I just think you're some fresh ideas. You're so well qualified. It would really be terrific to have you in Congress. And I didn't realize this kind of speaks to the political machine. In order to get past the threshold and to get momentum, you kind of have to break bread and make deals to, to get support. Money is part of it. Money's a big part of it to get your message out, et cetera. And then in this case, it's so grassroots, you just need signatures. It's not easy.
Yeah. It's not easy. And I admit, I kind of like it. I wish it was not a 10-day timetable during Thanksgiving week. I mean,
that's just crazy, man.
It reeks of like, and I am not the inside BS guy, but you can't help but feel like that's what it is. And if I had 2 weeks for this or 3 weeks for this, I've loved talking to people. I love people asking me questions, trying to catch me. And I have the freedom of just saying, well, this is what I actually believe. So here, and people, I think, like the authenticity, and they like seeing that somebody, you can tell I'm a decent person. We may not agree on every issue, but they can see, okay, this is a decent guy who's like, close enough to the right side on what I think is the right way. And it's nice. I like talking to people. I wish this were a longer process, because I'd love to just get 20 signatures a day and have 40 conversations and move on to the next day. Instead, you're like, hey, here's my 90-second pitch. And, we got to get 60 today or else we're falling behind, et cetera, et cetera. So it's.
So what is the drop dead date?
December 1st, 4 p.m. The signatures have to be, packaged the proper way, and submitted. So I really want to be there. So, I'd like to be there Sunday night and just use Monday for administrative. But I'm sure Monday if I hit 500, then you got to worry about the signatures that don't count. So you're like, I need 60 more today. Feel safe.
Oh, gosh. JL4NJ.com. It's a shame. We're on through Wednesday, then we're dark Thanksgiving and Friday. Otherwise, I'd say come back on. I don't know how many Jersey viewers and listeners we have, but I know that we have a lot of New Yorkers who know people in Jersey. You know what I mean? So,
and if they like, and I mean this, and I know it's a push, and I've always asked people to do this for shows, and it never seems to come through. But this is obviously way more important than any comedy show I've ever done, even though I deeply care about my work. It's like, if you have a friend, call in a favor, tell them, I think you'll like this guy. I like him. I would sign if I were there, but you're there. Or are you there? I know you're in Jersey. Where are you in Jersey? Is that NJ11? And I know it's a lot of work, but this is also a complete demonstration of every voter, every signature counts. Like,
people power.
You can actually, 500 people can get me on a ballot. Like, this isn't about you need 8 million votes to win something. This is you individually, or your friend, if you talk to them, or your relative, or your nephew coming home from college, can actually make a difference. That and 46 cents a month will help me live.
Check him out. JL4NJ.com. So JL4NJ.com takes you to his website. You can see him. You can contribute. So what happens if you don't get the 500 signatures? What happens to the money?
It's already gone. I've already spent it on a down
this
payment.
Stuff. Yeah, on
a down payment on a house. But no, I don't want to tip. And that's another form of stress, because just like when somebody buys a ticket to my show, there are people who've put early faith in me. Obviously, we had some decent upfront cost in terms of promotion, website, campaign manager. So we didn't start at zero. We started at negative. But I don't want to tip anything because there is a general election again. There's another election.
This isn't the last rodeo. Okay.
There's another one in November. That's the regular midterm where everybody's up. This is a special election to fill her seat. Now, you become an incumbent. You're in the driver's seat in terms of money, momentum. You are an incumbent. You already are in Congress. And there's also, I'm a lifelong Democrat, but there is always the threshold as an independent is 250 signatures by February 5th, which is a lot easier than 10 days for 500 signatures.
Yeah.
And, I don't feel wronged necessarily, but it makes you sit there and ponder clearly it's not me personally, but clearly they don't want people like me in the race.
Sure.
And it makes you want to go, why don't I get in the race?
No, exactly. And I hate to say it, but more and more people are disenchanted with mainstream parties. And as you suggested, maybe that's not appropriate. That disenchantment may be attached to preconceptions that aren't appropriate or aren't accurate, but they nonetheless are disenchanted. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a time when outsiders have maybe a chance that they didn't have before. But
I would caucus. I'd obviously caucus as a Democrat, but I want to get in as a Democrat because I'm a lifelong Democrat. And I like the idea of winning again within a system that didn't want me to win, that's like the spiteful comedian in me.
No, of course. All right. So I'm sending you money. I'll encourage others to do similarly.
Courtney is sending vibes.
She's sending. I'll insist that she send money.
I'm contributing. I'm all for this.
Yeah.
You've talked to JL here and there, but I've spent 2 hours with him for several days.
Oh, yeah, he filled in for me. Yeah, that's right.
He's smart. He has a great command of the issues. I would love for him to represent me in Congress. Sadly, I live in California and I can't sign the petition, but I can contribute and I absolutely will.
Thank you very much.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
JL for NJ.com. JL, let us know how it goes. And yeah, I'm actually buoyed by the fact that even if for some reason you can't get the 500 signatures in this ridiculously short amount of time over a holiday weekend, then they put you in this tough bind, that there is still a political future and it may roll around as early as just a couple of months from now. That's really terrific. Yeah. So,
and I'll be thinner then. I'll be taking Wegovy in the morning, Ozempic in the afternoon. So I'll be shredded and people are like, who do you think will fight for you? This guy in khakis or this 6'7" shredded monster?
Good luck. Stay in touch.
Thank you. Great to talk to you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too, pal. JL Cauvin. Loving JL. Really, really wild. And JL will, if he does get into Congress, he could be serving with this guy. The ShamWow Guy.
Yeah.
Is running for Congress in Texas. Did everybody have this land on their radar? Yeah. State election records show that TV pitchman Vincent Shlomi filed for an historically conservative district north of Austin, Texas. It includes the area around Fort Hood. Shlomi rising to fame in his infomercials, where he sold both an absorbent towel and a kitchen tool called the slap chop. In 2009, if he could sell that, he can probably sell himself in Texas. In 2009, the 61-year-old, he was not 61 when this picture was taken, but in 2009, the 61-year-old was arrested for punching a prostitute in a Miami hotel room.
What? I mean, if the ShamWow Guy can run, can we not get JL on the ballot? Really?
I mean, and he has this. Look, there he is. Again, arrested for punching a prostitute in a Miami hotel room. Seems like there's a lot wrong with that.
We could try ignoring it, sir.
Well, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't put it on your website, ShamWow Guy. But I also think these days that stuff matters less and less.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. If he were smart, he would go on to these debates and go on with that headset that he wore on the,
flinging around a ShamWow.
Yeah,
right?
flinging around a ShamWow.
If JL wins every time he passes this guy in the halls of Congress, you should point at him and yell, "ShamWow Guy."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, the GOP is really attracting a lot of winners, says D. Elliott. Yeah, exactly. But my money and our energy goes with JL Cauvin. So, again, it's JL for NJ. Not the number 4, the word 4. JLFORNJ. JL for NJ. And I'm excited about supporting us. He's better than George. Supporting him. He's better than George Santos, says Calvin Wong, shadow producer. Yeah, it's true. Well, George is a.
Hey, Mark. It's George Santos here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Good luck to our pal JL. How exciting. I love it. Yeah. All right.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know. It's late. Sadly, we have to. Luis says that we were giving out the rod of equity and mercy too liberally, as you say. He's on your side.
Yeah,
Mark, you're becoming Trump in a pay-to-play.
Mm-hmm.
The rod is sacred. At least hold out for a jet if you're going to sell out. I didn't even get to the story. You got a little bit of the Chris Murphy laying out the conflict of interest with that drone company that makes the Hunter Biden Burisma board membership look quaint. They started a drone company, essentially, the Trump sons, or Don Jr., I think, at minimum. And they immediately get a huge federal contract for drones.
Because of course they do. Yeah.
Now, Hunter Biden only was on the board of Burisma, didn't appear to have gotten anything for it. From the standpoint of federal engagement, obviously he got $10 million for being on the board. That was a bribe, and kind of an open legal bribe. You come onto the board and we'll give you this money and you'll try to do something for us. But what we're seeing in the Trump administration is like a really hold my beer moment. Tomorrow I'll speak more about the Saudis and the relationship there. But and I didn't even get to the ICE story, so those are things that I want to get to as well.
A quick note: the president had a call with Xi from China today, and apparently has accepted an invitation to visit China.
Oh,
so isn't the only other president to visit China? Who was it?
Well, Nixon was
and then who threw up there? Didn't somebody throw up there?
Bush. I thought that was in Japan, but it might.
That was in Japan. That was in Japan.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Yeah. Try to keep your vomiting story straight, if you could, please.
My bad.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'd like to apologize to the Asian community.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We have the Asian. There's so many people. We haven't had planned that time.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Right, yeah. There you go. Wow. Tomorrow on the show, David K. Johnston, everyone.
Yeah.
Our big holiday visit with David. And I've got some other stuff on the show tomorrow. I'm trying to find
Jefferson Graham will be on the show as
Jefferson Graham,
well.
of course. It's not a Thanksgiving meet without Jefferson Graham.
No, and just a couple programming notes. Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, will be on Wednesday because a lot of people want to know.
Oh, sure. It's a holiday weekend of movies.
Yeah. And we will be dark Thursday and Friday on the Mark Thompson Show in celebration and in honor of Thanksgiving.
And again, our big meetup is Monday.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for being here. Kim does
Out of time. Bye-bye.
the After Party Live and the After Party Live channel. We are out of time. Bye-bye.